citizens of the Nigelverse. It is Nigel once again. It is Halloween season, so who's ready to be spooked? Alright, that, ladies and gentlemen, is my attempt at scariness, and sadly, the flashlight on my phone kind of does it a bit of an injustice. I probably should have waited till I got a traditional flashlight, but it is what it is, I suppose. And there's cringier things I've done on this channel, but nevertheless, as it's time to begin our look at some Halloween movies, some spooky movies for the month of October. And this year's lineup is I think for the most part going to be interesting. But we start off with something new and something a little bit old. 20 years after the original Haunted Mansion, what would happen when Disney tried it again? Mixed results. It's time to look at the Haunted Mansion movie from last year, so 20 years after the original, releasing in July of all things, not closer to October, but I don't think the original one released in October either, or so it is what it is, I guess. Nope, the original released in November, so. Well, since we reviewed the Haunted Mansion last year, the one from 2003, what would happen when we review its successor 20 years later, its spiritual successor in a way, no pun intended, we'll find out. But, of course, as always, I'm not a professional movie reviewer, analyst, or anything like that, just a man who enjoys a good time, and I had a pretty okay time with this movie, all things considered. But sadly, a lot of other people didn't, and we're going to get into that later on. But without further ado, let's get right into it. And of course, if you've seen these reviews of mine before, you kind of already know how this works. If you haven't, I'm going to be talking about what I like and dislike about the movie, as well as give a little bit of a plot summary. So, this is just how it's laid out here on the wiki, and I have it open here for references in case there's any points I need to address or that I miss. But things do kind of go back and forth. It weaves in and out between the scenes, as movies often do, and like my light here is likely going to do for the duration of this review. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So we start off at the beginning of the movie, where Ben Mathias, who is an astrophysicist, meets up with Alyssa. They get married, and they strike up a combo. They actually get married off screen, but we see them starting off at a party, talking about talking about their interests. You know how you get to know people at parties. I probably wouldn't know because I don't really get invited to parties all that often, but they essentially get to know each other. Ben's an astrophysicist, Alyssa, she's a tour guide, but we then jump forward to several years later. Ben is now alone, and Alyssa has died, unfortunately, and we find out later on in the movie she died in a car crash, and so Ben is obviously a widower afterwards, but for now Ben is alone, and he has become a tour guide as well. Alyssa has expressed her belief in the supernatural, but Ben doesn't really believe, and still doesn't for the most part. So on the tour guide, he expresses his disbelief in the supernatural, even with the tours. He's kind of coming across buildings that seem to be haunted, but Ben says there's no such things as haunting. Ebenezer Ben, if you will. But meanwhile, we see Gabby, who's a widow doctor, or two widows, one widow, one widower, are in this movie. Starting to notice a pattern here, but we see Gabby and her son Travis, as they have bought the house. They've moved into Gracie Manor, and they're gonna turn it into a bed and breakfast. Probably not the first thing I would think of to do with a manor or an abandoned old manor, but You do you, I guess. Although I guess the architecture of a manor would make it a very fancy, luxurious bed and breakfast. But they have a manor infested with ghosts, as it would seem. And at first Travis sees it. It tries to tell Gabby about it. She doesn't believe him at first until she sees the knight's armor move his head on its own. And I don't. I couldn't tell you why, but this is one of my favorite part of the movies. She's trying to reassure her son, like, yeah, this place is kind of creepy. It's got like cobwebs and stuff, but there are no ghosts here. And when the knight's head moves, she's like, yeah, we're out of here, and they just take off running and they drive away. That is probably the most realistic reaction you would have in a scenario like that. Like yeah, it's goofy. It's a comedy movie essentially. It's supposed to be a comedy movie, but if something like that happened in real life, what's your first instinct? And I don't know about you guys, but me, I'm gonna run. I'm definitely gonna run. Yeah. Thanks, but no thanks. I'm out of here. I don't care how much I paid on the lease. I don't care about down payment, mortgage payment, stuff like that. I am out of there. I am definitely out of there. So, they take off and they escape. Right? Wrong, because we cut back to Ben and and he runs into Father Kent, and who was sent to him on behalf of Gabby to photograph the ghosts in Gracie Manor, or because Ben has a device that allows him to capture ghosts on camera. Ben and goes over her and Father Ken convinced him to go over, saying she's gonna pay really well. At first, Ben's having none of it, but Father Kent he breaks into Ben's house, not like violently, just kind of walks in, like picks a lock, whatever, and walks in, which is illegal. You probably shouldn't do that, but ask Ben if he wants to be a hero, and keep that phrase in mind because it's pretty much the tagline that the movie's gonna try to get over, essentially. But so Ben drives out. Sorry, I accidentally dropped my phone. In fact, we're gonna. There we go. But Ben decides to check it out. He's getting paid for it, so he heads over with his camera to where the house is, and Gabby and Travis are still there. Why are Gabby and Travis still there? Because the ghosts have followed them out and pretty much brought them back to the manor, like haunting them until they return to the manor, so. They're essentially stuck, and the hauntings. You might be like, Nigel, what's a few hauntings? And why is that gonna bring them back? Oh, you shall see. But Ben pretends to take photos, kind of doesn't really take it seriously, and heads home. But now Ben starts to get haunted, and he's warned her. And Gabby says, step foot over the I forget what it's called the little barrier part between where the door meets, I guess, like the front porch, which I forget exactly what that little bar is called, but pretty much once Ben steps in the house, that's when he is officially being chased and everything by the ghosts. Not literally chased, running from them, but now the ghosts are pretty much haunting him. So he heads back home, but he is haunted by the ghost, and he's haunted by the ghost of a sea captain, which floods his house with water, and pretty much drives him out, among other things. It's actually some pretty weird stuff. If you that, or Ben should really invest in a new coffee or something like that. But nevertheless, as Ben then returns to the manor, pretty much tells them what happened. They confirm, yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened to them. And along the way, they recruit both Harriet, who is a psychic medium, and they at first they take the mansion's blueprints from Professor Bruce Davis, who's a historian and knows a little bit about the manor and everything. They don't really want to recruit him, but eventually Professor Davis finds his way to the mansion anyway. So he essentially tags along for the journey. And they find eventually they find our group. They do kind of gel. They kind of get along and everything. And there's certain rooms that are less haunted than others, such as like the living room. So they mostly hang out there. Travis got a little tent and everything, but they find a secret room and from there Harriet contacts the spirit of William Gracie, who tells him about Madame Leota, talk to Madame Leota, and eventually Harriet is forced out of the house, like launched out of the house by an evil spirit. She's literally thrust into a chair and then thrown out of the house. And the same thing happens to Bruce as well. Gabby, Gabby, Travis, and Ben and Father Ken and pretty much have to stay. But Harriet and Bruce, nope, you gotta get out. Which is kind of funny, but eventually they do make their way back into the mansion. They try to find Madame Leota, and eventually finds a trunk with Madame Leota in it. Hits Anne and has to fight off the ghostly bride of Constance Hatchaway. There's a bunch of spirits within the house, and she is one of them, a corpse bride, if you will. Okay, but Ben survives survives getting decapitated, which was foreshadowed because he looked in the mirror and didn't see his head there, so he has to fight with the bride, gets the trunk with Madame Leota in her crystal ball, pretty much similar to the original movie, and we'll get into it more or when we do like our pros and cons, because it's probably a given, but I'm gonna compare it to like the original movie. But there is a lot of parallels, some intentional, some maybe not as much, but yeah. So Trunks brought out Madame Leota is there, or she reveals exactly what happened, in that William Gracie, he enlisted her help to try to contact his deceased wife, but she was growing concerned because all these spirits were coming in. They were unintentionally bringing in these other spirits while trying to contact Gracie's wife, and eventually an evil spirit, tricked Gracie into committing unaliving, if you will, later on, and that spirit, pay attention to that evil spirit, because it will kind of take shape as the movie goes on. It mimicked Gracie's wife, like wrote a letter to Gracie pretending to be his wife, and it trapped Leota inside the crystal ball. And over the years, it acquired 999 souls, and once it reaches the 1,000, it's pretty much gonna become super powerful, escape the mansion, and pretty much wreak all kinds of havoc. I wonder if it'll take over the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but pretty much don't get that 1,000 spirits. 1,000 spirit equals no good at all. So Harriet then performs an astral projection, and sorry Harriet, but it was cooler when Doctor Strange did it. But she tries to astral project herself, but Ben unintentionally, he is the one who becomes astral projected. Thankfully, he's not thrown into like different galaxies and planets and stuff like Doctor Strange was. So I'm guessing because Ben didn't come in contact with the Ancient One, but when he encounters both with Gracie and the evil spirit, it's Anne, and his the head of the evil spirit is inside a hat box that they carry. So a very, very frightening visual. And they then have to figure out who the spirit is so they can expel it from the house. That's pretty much the instructions they're given by Madame Leota. So Ben and Professor Davis go and get a police sketch for the spirit, because they need to identify who this is. And Ben has this guy's face like burned into his mind. So they play it off. They tell the police that Ben got mugged, and so they have him draw a sketch of the guy, and obviously the police sketch artist, when he tells them that the guy has no nose and no lips, is a little bit weirded out, but pretty much draws it perfectly, and they identify the evil spirit as Alistair Crumb, who was a wealthy heir, who was pretty much shunned, rejected by his father, and after his father's mysterious death, you can probably put two and two together, Crumb killed a bunch of people through lavish party. He's and developed an obsession with the occult, not quite Charles Manson style, but eventually his staff rised up, committed a mutiny, and killed him. They probably could have just quit, but whatever, float your boat. But it's pretty much allowed him to become this evil spirit. And once they identify who he is his Crumb is not very happy with what's happened, and he seals off the mansion. But Ben, Kent, and Travis end up escaping before that happens, and the sea spirit, the captain, the mariner from earlier, the one who was haunting Ben, leads them to a piece of the living. That's what Matt Leo describes, saying, and you need a piece of the living in order to complete the banishment spell. And obviously they're going to use the banishment spell to banish Crow from the house, but they gotta find something that was connected to him while he was alive, and the mariner spirit leads them, or mariner spirit, I should say, leads them to Crumb's hat. And so they go and find the hat, and they do find it. It's in a tour guide of all things. It's kind of a replica of Crumb Manor. Travis ends up finding not just the hat, but the head as well of Alistair Crumb, and they're tipped off by one of the other tour visitors, or I guess they're called. Hold on. Now I think that I haven't really been on too many tours, but too many guided tours, I should say. But maybe I should go on some more. Maybe that'll be my goal for 2025. Who knows? But yeah. So they're tipped off that the head might still be in the house, and lo and behold, the head's still in the house with the hat and everything, and they head back to the mansion, and they're about to confront them. Father Kent is having second thoughts. But revealed he's actually not a father at all. He's not a real priest. He faked being a priest. He has the garb on and everything, and so he reveals he's not a real priest. He's essentially a con artist in a way. But Ben reassures him, saying he helped him out a lot, and pretty much reminds him of his worth and everything. So, that's nice of him at least. But the movie kind of does allude to it, because there's plenty of things that Ken does that's very unbecoming of a father or someone within the church, of course. Now, there is commentary there, but for the time being, I'm avoiding bringing it up, because yeah, no, that's not a can of worms I feel like opening. But pretty much they go inside the manor, and Crumb grabs the hat, throws it into the fire, and it's gonna be incinerated, and Crumb has decided he wants Travis to be his final soul. You think it's Ben at first, but the movie pulls a Vince Russo style swerve, bro. It's actually Travis, who they told Travis to stay behind in the car so he doesn't get hurt, but he's led by what he thinks is the voice of his father. Her Crumb is shown to be very manipulative, if so. Who manipulates him with the spirit of his deceased father, and eventually Ben convinces Travis that's not your dad. He pretty much pulls a Yondu, who there's a lot of references to other stuff. I am sorry, but trying to trying to make it relatable and make sense so you guys can follow along with what's going on. Not that the movie's confusing or anything, just makes it a little more specific in a way. But Ben convinces Travis that hey, that's not actually your dad. That's the evil voice. So Travis at first relents, but ultimately accepts it and goes with Ben. And so Travis is not tricked. Meanwhile, Kent and at first creates a diversion while Professor Davis goes to get the hat. He leads the ghosts on a wild goose chase, or maybe that's a wild ghost chase. But then convinces him, hey, you don't have to take that kind of stuff from Crumb. Rise up. Rise up, rebel against Crumb. And so the ghosts ultimately do who at first as Crump is starting to become more powerful with the power of the full moon. Ben at first volunteers to be the final soul to protect everyone else, which kind of goes against what he just told Travis not to do. Do as I say, not as I do, I suppose. But the whole time, Crumb is manipulating him, telling him, hey, don't you want to see your wife Alyssa again? And there is a moment earlier in where Ben kind of sees Alyssa's spirit and is led into the graveyard, but it turns out to be just a dream. And so Ben wants to be reunited with Alyssa, so he's willing to do anything, to see her. But Ben ultimately decides not to go with Crump. The ghosts fight back against Crump, and Crump is banished with the remaining piece of the hat that Professor Davis fished out. So everybody's free. The ghosts are free. They're able to just live their lives, or lack thereof, I guess, as within the mansion, and everybody kind of goes back to normal. There's a cat that's always always kind of following Ben around in his house, and the cat turns out to be named Tater Tot, which is a nice little callback to earlier in the movie where Harry describes how people from beyond who love them and everything, like family and stuff like that, will send signs to say a pretty much like that they're thinking of them and to remind them of them, and Alyssa just happened to love Tater Tots. So Ben is happy to see that. He adopts the cat as Tater Tots. They have a Halloween party. The gang and everything have a Halloween party at the mansion, and things kind of wrap up nicely. Ben is now a teacher again, and Harriet pursues becoming a medium even more. Madame Leota is free from her crystal ball, but eventually he goes back. Kent becomes a father for real. Not like father with like a baby, but like an ordained minister, I should say. Travis becomes class vice president when previously his class hated him. And that's something he confides in Ben about. Gabby works at a hospital. Works at a local hospital. Bruce made friends, and everybody's happy. He pretty much a happy ending for everyone. Even the Sea Mariner returns to sea, steals a guy's boat, which nice, but yeah. So essentially, everybody's happy in the end. I know that was kind of all over the place, but all's well that ends well, I will say. Now, going into what I liked and disliked about the movie, and of course, there's kind of a given, but we're gonna be comparing it and contrasting it to the original Haunted Mansion. So let's do exactly that. Starting with what I liked, I think the actors do a really good job. Even people who even by that I mean kind of like the critics and everything have praised the acting. I think the actors do really well. The chemistry they have with each other is pretty decent. We kind of get to explore the characters. We see them gel with each other, or we kind of it does get a little exposition heavy at times, where they kind of tell rather than and show what happened. And although they do use flashbacks to kind of, mainly with like Ben and everything, kind of flashing back to his life and his life with Liz and everything before she passed away in the car accident, but we do see the characters kind of gel, and so seeing their growth later on in the movie is pretty cool. Ben gets to let go of his sadness. Harriet becomes like a full-time medium. Ken becomes an ordained minister. So, showing the growth within the movie, how the characters were at the beginning of the movie versus how they evolved to be later on is pretty cool to see. Pretty cool to see the progression essentially of the characters is very nice. And it's characters that you find yourself rooting for. I would say, and the way the characters interact with each other, not a whole lot of malice. We see how they come together with their circumstances, which when you have a conflict like this, it's kind of a weird premise, but I think the way the movie goes about it, I think is pretty decent for the most part. Or about how it comes together and how the characters come together, is pretty cool to see. For the most part, the effects I would say are decent and nothing too crazy. It doesn't look completely out of place and dumb and everything, which is nice. As in comparing it to the original 2003 movie, you can tell. Obviously, much later, a whole 20 years. The effects for the 2003 movie didn't look that bad either, for the most part. But the effects here do look pretty cool, and I do like some of the effects, such as like the water and everything, and how the real life blends with the supernatural as the characters being haunted and everything, and kind of putting a twist on Gracie and his origins. And it's because Gracie and Madame Leota are carried over from the original movie, how it's turned around in this one to where Madame Leota was kind of the medium appointed by Gracie. This time around, as opposed to them kind of being separate entity, he's I think is cool, but we'll get into more about what I dislike. But I think having their relationship more established and a bit more fleshed out, I would say, I think does it explains things a little bit more, or if that makes any sense. I don't know if I'm making a lick of sense, but it explains things a little more in this movie, how their relationship got us to this point. And I do like how even though exposition at times how things tie back into the movie, I think how things tie back back then versus how we get it to this point. I think the progression isn't too juddery. It isn't too like breakneck of a pace. I think you can see how things go from where they were, or when like Gracie was alive and everything, and then how they got to this point, and the parallels of that being Gracie wanting to see his wife, and then Ben several centuries later wanting to see his wife. Like you can tell. I think what I'm getting at is seeing how things connect for the most part. Or it's not always the cleanest connections, but you can see what they're going for. And for the most part, if the intent is there, I think I show a little bit of leeway. Like I can, like if the intent is there, I can appreciate the intent. And but yeah, so seeing the characters, seeing how things gel within the universe, and seeing how things connect, I think was pretty alright for the most part. What I didn't quite like as much, there is more connection between Gracie and Madame Leota, but not as much connection with like the main villain. And the main villain, I think, could have been handled a little bit better. If you remember the original movie, the main villain for that one, that being Ramsey, or Ramsley, I should say, was essentially the butler for Gracie. Tricked him, manipulated him into dying to be with Elizabeth. Or actually, he tricked Elizabeth into killing herself with the poison. And Gracie killed himself by hanging himself. At least there's no scenes of Gracie being hung this time around. They just give him the kind of off-screen death, him being poisoned, and or drinking the poison, I should say. I forget if he did hang himself. I don't think he hung himself in this movie, but but there's more of a connection between those characters versus in this one on the rest of like the characters compared to like the rest of the spirits don't feel as connected. The main characters, like the I don't necessarily want to say human characters, but alive characters in a way, feel somewhat connected, a bit disjointed. They're supposed to be like a ragtag kind of group, and I see that, but like the spirit aspect, the ghosts in a way, or the spirits such as like Mad Leota or Crump and everything, and I think are a little bit disconnected, and it does kind of suck because you have this big bad villain, but it's almost like I don't necessarily want to say it's almost like why is he there, but there are some questions that are left, and not necessarily in a good way. There are some questions, and well, did he kill his dad? Why is he so evil? Why is he such like a bad guy? At least with Ramsey, it's because he didn't feel that. He didn't feel like, hey, Grady, he should have been with Elizabeth. And I'm talking about obviously like the OG Haunted Mansion movie, but with that one, he felt like he shouldn't have been with her. So you can kind of see it in that one, but in this one, Crump is just kind of a jerk. Essentially, sometimes that's all you need for a villain. So sometimes you can get away with that, but I feel like in this one, it's kind of to the detriment because things feel a little disjointed. That and the reveal of it being Crump, I think, does come a little bit late into the movie. Yeah, at least with Ramsley, he's there almost from like Jump Street. He's not pretty much pretty much there. You don't really know it's him just yet because the movie in like the original movie starts off with like the montage of them dancing and everything, but then once they get to the mansion, Ramsley is pretty much there from the beginning. Having the kind of spirit and then having it revealed to be Crump, I think I think it could have worked. I think the idea has legs. There's this evil spirit. It revealed that it was this guy. It was this like bad guy in real life, but if they tied everything together, or like how's he come in contact with Gracie? Does he have a maybe give him kind of a relationship with Gracie? Maybe he knew Gracie, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like kind of connect the pieces a little bit more on that, and like they kind of got it right with like the living characters, but then left kind of the back stuff kind of undone and kind of loose, and that does kind of suck to see because it does lead to a admittedly kind of weak antagonist in a way. Like they try to build him up as this big bad guy, as this big evil force that needs to be stopped, but sadly it doesn't quite pan out the way they would have intended or the way they probably would have liked. And that does suck because you had an interesting idea. You had something, I would say. You did have something that I think could have worked if they really worked on it, but sadly didn't quite pan out that way. So I think that's the biggest knock I have against the movie. And plus, of course, humor is subjective. So if you don't really like the humor of the movie, that's one thing. But yeah, I think that aspect is really what kind of took me out of it. And it does suck. Like, it really does suck. If they worked on that aspect as much like the front aspect, like, then I think the movie would have been marginally better. But sadly, the critics and the box office didn't seem to think so. So, this movie, he got a 37% on Rotten Tomatoes, 6 out of 10 on IMDb, and 47% on Metacritic. Now, that's critic scores, and the thing about critic scores is take them or leave them, because that's someone else's opinion, of course, or some people's opinions. Although I always maintain, come to your own opinions and come to your own conclusions. But people did it, because compared to a $150 million budget, the movie only drew $117.5 million at the box office. And it lost Disney a estimated $117 million. And now 2023 was kind of rough for Disney. Like 2023, I don't know if it was 100% dire straits, but it was pretty damn close. It was like stuff like his Disney taking L's left and right really made 2023 kind of a rough year. Which is ironic, because it was supposed to be a celebration of the 100th anniversary, and the kind of 100th anniversary special intro they did was kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, what a way to celebrate having a big box office disappointment, and so that does kind of suck. Now, how did the 2003 movie fare? That one did a 182.3 million million box office compared to a 90 million budget. So it's relatively well at the box office. And you may be wondering, Nigel, how does a movie do well at the box office? It essentially has to break even. Now, break even is kind of something that's been kind of debated as to what exactly entails. It's pretty much the consensus I've gotten is that in order to break even, a movie has to make 2.5 more than its budget. I forgot who exactly came up with that number, but yeah, this movie sadly didn't do that. So this probably means we won't get another Haunted Mansion movie for a while, if at all. So it does kind of suck, but otherwise, it was a pretty decent movie. So if you're curious, I would say I recommend this movie for the most part. But nevertheless, that's going to do it for this review. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I know this was kind of all over the place, but the movie's kind of an all over the place movie in a way. But nevertheless, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor. Like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, and turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video, so you can see as soon as it drops. And let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the movie and my review. Did you like the Haunted Mansion movie? Did you like my review of the movie? Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Peace.